My War with the United States by Ludwig Bemelmans. The Operation. We have 2 scarlet fever cases, and a sign is stuck on the bulletin board that 2 men are wanted to take care of them. 2 men who have had scarlet fever and therefore are immune to it. Beardsley and I volunteer for this job. We both have had this fever. The isolation hospital, a little brick building that has been given this title, is far away from all other houses. It has 2 small rooms for the patients, one for each, and a room for Beardsley and me, besides a bathroom, a combination kitchen, and a living room and a porch. There is a telephone, and the house is stocked with linen, medicaments, hospital supplies, and dishes. The patients are there already. One is a quiet, colorless man. The other, named Carey, is a mean, quarrelsome lout without manners and stupid. We are to stay there, one night on duty, the other on day. One on night duty, the other on day. Never leave the building and take care of the patients. The house stands on a hill. On one side, the old fortress; in front of it, the lake; in back, the parade ground, and anyone coming can be seen long before he arrives. You have to cross the wide field on a narrow path. Along this path our food is brought, and after half an hour's exposure to cold and wind, it is stale and not very good, even if warmed up. The patients get milk and zwieback. It is cold, and we have to keep a fire going all day long. Carey is in the little room at the right. On the left is the other man. After the men had run through half the length of their sickness, the doctor, who is a captain named Grillmeyer, told us that now they could have food, that they must be built up with eggs, meat, vegetables. It is very fortunate that Beardsley can cook, and Captain Grillmeyer leaves us an order for the main kitchen and the commissary to supply whatever we need for the patients. The big hospital is filled. There are many patients, and Captain Grillmeyer is more a surgeon than a physician. He is busy operating all day, and he will not come for a while, but will call up every evening, and if anything should happen, we are to get in touch with him immediately. We can order eggs, steak, chops, vegetables, rice, noodles, sugar, flour, and many more things, even dried fruit and chocolate, in that foolish language which Beardsley and I talk, concocted of distorted words, elaborate gestures, ohs and ahs, the raising of eyebrows and deep nods. We decide, after the patients are asleep, that we are more hungry than they, and need building up ourselves, and that they can be kept without harm on a liquid diet for another week or so. Beardsley is a fine cook. Many of the seasonings that he needs are missing, but he does well with what he has. The groceries and meats arrive promptly when ordered. The baskets are left on our porch, and we stand around the oven and fry and broil and stew ourselves into a contented after-dinner state twice every day, and have, besides, thick ham and eggs for breakfast. No wine, but cigars. Beardsley bought a box of them before we came. Carey is troublesome. He smells the good food, and all day long he wants to get up, so we have to chase him back to bed. Also, we have read all the magazines and books that are here and talked ourselves out of everything we know that is interesting. This is a dull, dead, rainy Saturday night. We don't know what to do with ourselves. Our patient is unbearably stupid. But Beardsley gets a magnificent idea. Beardsley went into Carey's room and looked at him with suspicion, felt his head, and asked him to show his tongue. A while after, he sent me to look at him. I had to feel his abdomen and shake my head. Later, we both went in and looked at him, and then at each other, and walked out again. The door was left open so that Carey could hear us, and after we had eaten or rather his, custard, Beardsley said to me, "I have seen it happen again and again. Just when you think they're out of it, this terrible complication sets in. God, I hope this poor devil hasn't got it. Should we call Grillmeyer?" he asked himself, and then answered, "Not yet." He went in to look at Carey again. Carey sat at the head of his bed on the pillows, clamped to the iron bars and ready to kick with his feet, but Beardsley calmed him with oily words, and then he allowed us to pull up the top of his pajamas, and feel his abdomen. He was white, his shapeless mouth open, and he breathed heavily. We went back to our cigars, and Beardsley told me a loud story of one man, such a one as this poor boy Carey, a case so identical that the patient looked exactly like him, with precisely the same symptoms, and even color of eyes. Doctor came too late. He was dead in 2 hours, died in horrible pain. His spine contracted to such a degree that his head was bent back between his legs. He was like a ring, with the navel on the outside, blue with green spots all over. They had to bury him in a round coffin. "But we're not going to take a chance like that with Carey," said Beardsley. And then in a low voice, as if he was afraid the patient could hear and be upset, he added, pointing at himself, "Not I. I'm responsible for this man. Close the door. I'm calling Captain Grillmeyer on the phone this minute." I closed the door, and we heard the bed springs creak as Carey climbed out of bed to listen at the door. Beardsley came back from the phone and told me that Grillmeyer was standing by, that Carey had the unmistakable signs of the dread disease, and that he, Grillmeyer, thought it best to operate. The room to work in, operating room number 1, would be kept free, a wagon sent over, and all this would take place in about half an hour. We gave Carey enough time to get back into bed and to open the door. Beardsley asked him if he had any relatives and where he lived. I put my hand on his head, and Beardsley looked at him and said, "Steady, Carey. You'll be all right. Just relax." We brought him a pad of paper and a pencil, also an envelope with a stamp, turned out the big light, adjusted his pillow, put a white screen around his bed, and left him to go and drink more coffee and finish the cigars. He was quiet. When he saw us, he looked down. He had not written anything, but chewed on the pencil. He was almost green. I took his temperature again and his pulse and asked him to say, "Ah!" Beardsley pressed his stomach so hard that he yelled, "Ah!" said Beardsley. Then we made him use a bottle for analysis, and Beardsley came back with the result in a small test tube. It was black coffee, but Carey gave only one quick look. Beardsley held it up to the light and said, "We might as well tell him now. This is the proof." "For such an operation," explained Beardsley, "the entire cover of the stomach is removed, not with one incision, but with 4. He demonstrated this on his own person. 2 cuts ran from where the legs meet, left and right to the hips. The other 2 from there up to the neck. The entire covering of the abdomen is lifted off, and with it also that which makes the man most proud of himself, and which is no good after being replaced." Beardsley went out, tied Dr. Grillmeyer's white gown around himself, stuffed cotton in his nose, and put on operating gloves. We washed Carey's stomach with soap and water, and then shaved it, and painted the area where the incision would run with iodine. Then we gave him an enema. It was too much. Carey turned gray and blue, with almost the green spots of dread disease on him. His eyelids fluttered like the wings of a young butterfly, and the pupils almost disappeared under the upper lids. At this moment the telephone rang, and Grillmeyer called for his daily report. He also announced that he would be over tomorrow. It was good for us at this moment that Carey was so without mind. When he came to, we informed him that sometimes, in rare cases, the crisis passed without need of the knife, and that he looked like one of these fortunates. If he felt no pain for the next hour, he would be safe. We both sat on his bed, watch in hand, for the next hour. There was no sign of pain. He continually assured us how good he felt. He was enthusiastic about his condition, even when Dr. Grillmeyer came the next day. We gave him a cigar for lunch. And that is the end of the operation.